everyone. And we are live with another episode of Comic Talk. It's that show brought to you by The Key, where we talk about this week's new comic book releases. For those of you who don't know, new DC comics come out on Tuesdays, new Marvel and indie comics come out on Wednesdays, and we are here on a Thursday, February 22nd, 2024, to talk about everything that came out this week. I'm your host, Dimithri Perera, and if you could see us live, you can see exactly who our guests are, and that means you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, whichever one, revs your engines. Or maybe you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcast from. I'm Dimithri Perera. I already said that. Let me introduce my guests for today, both of which were duoed up about a month ago when we on their last episode of Comic Talk. So I don't know how the dice is rolling these days, but it seems this is the orbit for everybody. We got Drew Maxey, aka Drew Deficit. You can find him at Drew X Deficit, but the X is silent, just like the H in my name. Drew, what's up?
Bang bang! I'm doing like a Mick Foley thing.
I barely know wrestling. I've talked about it before. I barely know.
Cactus Jack, bang bang. I don't know why I did that, but I just felt like we needed a little pizzazz in the intros today. I don't know why.
Yeah. Oh, everybody should come in with a catchphrase. Yours is bang bang.
Yeah. For now.
Yeah.
Until I rework it. You mentioned. I don't want to get us too off topic right from the beginning, but you mentioned DC Comics come out on Tuesday. That's almost about to not be a thing anymore.
Oh, is DC Comics moving back to Wednesdays?
They announced today that they will be going back to Wednesdays sometime in the future.
Okay. Which is, it doesn't, okay, the only way that affects me is reading books for today, like the show that we do on Thursdays. Because I read my DC on my Tuesdays, I read everything else on my Wednesdays, and then I can pop in here and talk about everything. I'll pose this question to both of you guys when I finish introducing. We also got Ethan, aka Virgo Blade. Ethan, what's up, man?
What up? I feel like I have to have a catchphrase too. So here's looking at you, Squid. That doesn't make sense, but I thought it was fun.
It's cool. Yeah. I mean, it's like you're an Atlantean trying to recreate or like landlubber movies.
That was actually the working title of Watchmen.
I was actually going to say that was a Watchmen reference because of the falling squid specifically. I just rewatched the HBO series, and it's my favorite series of all time. So squids have been on my brain.
Dimithri, if in the future you ever want to do one of your geek talk shows about the HBO Watchmen, I think I did one back when it came out, but yeah. Well,
do it again.
If you ever wanted to do a better one,
do a retrospective. Yeah. I liked the HBO Watchmen show. I liked it a lot.
It's my favorite TV series of all time. To me, it's that good. Like, I'm not going to go on a whole rant about it, but I could in terms of how it deals with the Black diaspora, generational trauma. There's just a lot of really deep context in there. I could go on for days.
I remember watching it and loving it, and I remember key parts of it. I could rewatch it again because I haven't thought about it since. I could rewatch it again almost completely fresh. I mean, I know some big twists, but I'm sure there are big twists that I forget.
I'll tell you what, though, knowing those twists and then watching it from the beginning does enhance the experience.
It does.
Yeah,
100%.
I can see that.
It does. When I teach Watchmen, I always, when we're done with it, I always watch a couple episodes of the show with my classes. And so I've seen the first episode a bunch, and I've seen the sixth episode a bunch. So knowing the stuff that is revealed in the show always makes that first episode a really interesting experience for me. Just because there's so much that it's hinting at that you don't realize are hints.
Yeah. I guess if the question is who rewatches The Watchmen, it's you guys.
Yes.
The age-old question.
1000%.
I've had
extraordinary being is.
What did you guys say?
I was gonna say I have that TikTok series, that playlist called Drew Watches the Watchmen, where I just break down what makes Watchmen interesting. So I'm on board.
I've check that out.
Shout out to Modern Merlin out there on our Twitch chat. Shout out to anyone, who's out there on a Twitch chat. Let us know you're out there. Modern Merlin, let us know, I guess, if you want us to say a sentence of your choosing. These are like credits from like years ago from like other shows that we did, but they're still in the system. I guess we have to say anything that Modern Merlin says we have to say, because Modern Merlin, used up 1,500 credits. Say that.
He's got the magic.
Okay, I'll say this one, and I'll say this one to Ethan. Being Virgo just makes you better than everybody else.
I don't like to say it, but if that's what people, want to say themselves, I will not disagree with them.
Good. I hope Modern Merlin is happy. I said that. All right, so
thank you, Merlin.
Let's get to the nitty gritty. All right, the cream and the corn. All the books that came out this week. There's a lot of books. Was it right? There was a lot of books.
This was a huge week.
Yeah.
Like, also huge iconic week, especially for DC. Because their Trinity all had books, plus Nightwing, plus Batman, Superman, World's Finest. Like, is this the iconic week of DC?
That World's
Basically.
Finest issue in particular, I mean, did a lot for the DC. It did a lot with the DC brand, I should say.
Yeah.
So
yeah, definitely.
And then Marvel also had, Marvel had some really good stuff too. I don't know if with their heavy hitters necessarily, but DC definitely had a heavy hitting week this week. What did you guys read?
Ethan, go ahead.
Cool. Let's see. I did Nightwing, World's Finest, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Daredevil. So It was a pretty good week. Enjoyed the majority. I found something good in just about everything that I read. So I'm very happy about that.
And Ethan, your reading habits, are you normally just like you will buy only what you know for sure you will like? Or do you take risks?
Okay, so pre-New 52 was a different me. I would buy every single DC comic book. It didn't matter what it was. I read all of Countdown. People might not remember that, but after the 52 weekly series, there was Countdown, and it wasn't as strong as the previous one, but it's just I didn't care. I bought Gotham Underground. Anything I could get my hands on with DC, I purchased.
Yeah.
Nowadays, post New 52, things have particular about the books that I pick up. So to my credit, I have opened myself up to more things than I did in the past, because during the New 52 era, I was pretty much only reading Scott Snyder Batman run. And then afterwards, I started opening myself up really post Rebirth.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I am more particular, but not as bad as I used to be.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like when people people's viewing habits for movies. Some people just watch movies they will like, so then the reviews tend to be good, but it's because they're not watching the movies that they dislike, which makes sense,
Yeah.
But this week, no matter what your taste is,
precisely, and
this week's just a strong week in general.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think during the New 52 era, by the way, Greg Capullo's art on that Batman run is still like top tier.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'll even go to writers who or artists who aren't necessarily my personal preference, because I'm also an open-minded person that likes to give like people a shot. And even if I don't like something, I always try to find something that I do enjoy about it, because I'm not to enjoy them. I'm not that type of fanboy that's just like, oh, let me like hate on everything. I'm like, no, like if like the art's like there's usually something good in any story if you really just take the time to like look deeper into it.
Yeah, definitely.
Mhm.
Drew, I want to go over your reading list too. But Ethan, real quick, your internet connection might be a little bit off. Just so you know, right now it's not like too big of a deal, but hopefully it stays around there or gets better. As opposed to
Okay,
worse.
there was that AT&T blackout that I feel like my internet's still kind of like
I heard about
iffy, 'cause,
that.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I couldn't post this morning, and then like my Wi-Fi's been off and on, so I apologize
It's all right.
if it's like weird.
I have Spectrum, and I mean, I wouldn't recommend Spectrum, but I wouldn't not recommend Spectrum. They're fine.
Okay.
They're here.
Lukewarm.
Yeah.
Lukewarm
I have
reception.
Spectrum for my internet and T-Mobile for my phone. And it is what it is. I don't know.
Okay.
Could I save money? I don't know. By moving to one or the other? We'll see. Drew seems to have disappeared, and that's okay. Everybody is given the right.
I'm back.
You're back. Do you want to go through your list of the week?
Yes, I do. For my microphone started giving me trouble. So I'm assuming you can hear me because you said you answered me when I came back. But so that's where I went. All right. So I will tell you what I read. In publisher and alphabetical order.
Okay.
Because why not?
Yeah.
So I went with I read Batman. I read Green Lantern War Journal.
Okay. Number 6.
I read Nightwing number 111. I read Superman 11. I read Wonder Woman 6. I read World's Finest number 24. I read John Constantine, Hellblazer, Dead in America, number 2 from the Black Label Sandman Universe imprint. From Marvel, I read Ultimate Spider-Man 2. And from Image Comics, I read The Holy Roller, number 4.
Yeah.
I read The Six Fingers, number 1. And then from Dynamite Comics, I read James Bond, number 2.
Okay. That is a healthy list.
Yeah, and I have 5 more that I haven't read yet. It was a big week.
Yeah. No, it was. What I also like is like we have a lot of overlap between the three of us, because I'll read out my list in a second. We have a big overlap, which also means that we have to try our damnedest to stay on topic, because we got there. It's a busy week, and I want to get through everything, especially the stuff that we overlapped on, because I think that like we'll all have like either similar opinions or different opinions or whatever, and I want to hear it. All right, this is what I read. Superman 11, Wonder Woman 6, Nightwing 111, Batman Superman World's Finest 24, Daredevil 6, James Bond I could not finish. I started, I couldn't. But what I did finish and really loved was The Holy Roller 4, which, Drew, you might have gotten me into this through you talking about it on Comic Talk. So I'm up to date with Holy Roller. Batman 144, Ultimate Spider-Man 2, X-Force 49, Rise of the Powers of X 2, Guardians of the Galaxy Annual 1, or Annual for this year, whatever you want to call it, Justice League vs. Godzilla vs. Kong number 5, Cobra Commander 2, Spider-Boy 4, Edge of Spider-Verse 1, Predator Last Hunt 1. I did read, but I couldn't really get through, just kind of like the James Bond one, Alien Red, White, or Red, Black, and Blood.
Black,
Red,
White,
White, and Blood. Yeah, something like that. Black, bloodier, and whatever.
Bigger, longer, and uncut.
Yeah. I couldn't get through that, just like the James Bond one. I couldn't get through that. I guess the question for everybody, given that we all read a lot, like, what is our pick of the week? And we can just get started to talk about our faves.
Well, mine is World's Finest.
If you didn't pick it, I was gonna pick it. So I'm gonna change my answer. Let's talk about it. Fine. Yeah.
Let's do that. Mark Waid is putting in that work.
Oh.
Like, let's just say that off the bat. Somehow he's outdoing himself. Like, because first of all, I love Kingdom Come. Even going back to the JSA run with Jeff Johns that he did in like the 2000s.
Yeah.
Like, I just love revisiting that, because that just feels like a really major like touchstone for DC in this conversation about morality and like crossing the line. But how Mark Waid like readdressed it in a very like refreshing kind of modern way with Superman. Like, he just understands these characters on such a cellular level that it just comes off of the page, and it just reminds me why I love comic books so much.
So I'm one of my favorite comic books of all time is Kingdom Come. Mm-hmm. And this is something I've been saying for a long time. People, like, as a kid, teenager, junior higher, growing up, I was so upset that Watchmen was the only comic book on like Time Magazine's 100 best books of all time. So it was the only comic on there, right? And I'm using comic specifically. I'm not saying graphic novel, whatever. It was Watchmen's a comic. There was a comic on there. It was the only comic. But I always was like, what, they didn't read Kingdom Come? I used to get so upset that Kingdom Come wasn't talked about in the same breath. I love Kingdom Come. I love Kingdom Come also for multiple reasons. One is there's that age-old generational problem that Kingdom Come is about. But then they also add the layer of superheroes, specifically the Justice League and whatever, dealing with the incoming generation. But they're also doing a meta commentary on comic books at the time, where it is the 90s extreme comics. And is there a place for Superman, a living Superman, not the death of Superman, which also happened in the 90s? Like, can Superman really live in the 90s? Can he live in this new era? And so there's like extra meta commentary on meta commentary. I love Kingdom Come. And like them revisiting it in this way, specifically Mark Waid, because he wrote the first one. I loved this issue. And the way it ends.
This issue has been my favorite of this little like arc that and it's honestly, it's not often that the finale is the best issue of the arc, you know. Usually it's like right around, you know, the like the plot climax is going to be around, if this was 5 issues, it'd be around like issue 3 or 4, and then we just deal with resolution in this last book, which, I mean, I think that does kind of happen. I don't think that necessarily the climax of the plot happens in this issue, but I think that the resolution is really what makes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you do, you know, like what Ethan, what you're talking about is like this issue of morality, I think is very relevant again, in terms of like what people want out of their heroes. Which it's so weird that, like, you know, like the conversation in the bigger world, the conversation about, like, I mean, extrajudicial killings and stuff like that is very different from what people want in their fiction. But I think that superheroes in general are, I mean, they're supposed to kind of be stand-ins for morality. They're morality tales, you know?
Right.
So, like, why is that the case? Where does that disconnect happen? You know, as a Batman fan, people are constantly telling me that Batman should just kill people. Like, oh, it's just more effective. And it's just like, I loved the moment in this book where Batman himself is just like, that doesn't make you a hero. That makes you a weapon.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I think that's I don't know. That's just such a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I like that the Superman content in the past, like, couple years, they finally, like, they know who Superman is now, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's Superman and Lois, whether it's My Adventures with Superman, whether it's the comics and this new Superman Renaissance. I believe in James Gunn. Like, I think that, like, the movie, it's gonna get Superman. It's not gonna make Superman Star-Lord, you know? Though in an alternate universe, he could have the name Star-Lord. If you think about, you know, Superman ruling the galaxy,
would also work.
you know? But like, I'm the way this ends though, also, like, I get, you know, spoiler, this whole thing is spoilers and whatnot, but like, him hugging Magog, and like, sometimes you just need to clean the slate a little bit with somebody. And that last splash panel of new heroes, old heroes, there are characters that I'm like, this is not a legacy character. But then there are characters that I'm like, oh, legacy character we've never seen before. Cool.
Yeah.
And then Magog leading them. Like, that's what that's the inspiration that Superman is.
Yeah, and that's why that was so powerful, is because it's like Superman, his greatest strength is his heart. It's very easy to say, like, oh, his super strength, his super speed, his heat vision, ice breath. But to me, it's his heart, and that's why I always connect to him. And I get very offended-ish when people think that he's boring, because he's not. And I just feel like, because it takes so much strength to have a heart in a very cold world. And I just, you know, as a kid going through what I went through, feeling very isolated, like, I only had comic books. Like, I won't go into my whole origin story, but I did not have a big group of friends that I could, like, hang out with and talk to. So guess what? I had Teen Titans, I had Batman, I had Wonder Woman, I had Superman. So it's like, I tended to take this very seriously, and that gave me hope during a very dark time. So with Superman, like, dealing with death and killing in such a visceral way, and not allowing his own kind of altruism to cloud his sense of forgiveness, was just very inspiring. And to me, that is the essence of what Superman is, because, like, a hug from Superman, and I understand from Superman, would be like the greatest gift ever. So the fact that he did that for Magog was just powerful.
Yeah. It was a good ending. I don't know. Like, I didn't think this story needed to be told. Like, in the beginning, I was just like, what is the point of going back? But I'm cool with it. I like it. I can't
win you over.
I don't think I'm very much a person who, like, I don't think any story needs to be told, you know? But I think that, like, every story has the potential to be good. Like, every story has potential. Whether or not the creator reaches that potential is a whole other story, you know? So, like, when I see them kind of revisiting things, there is kind of the part of me that'll be kind of like, oh man, do we need to do this again? Especially because I know that, like, some of the Kingdom Come revisits in the past haven't been very well received.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it is that I think the reason why this one works is because it was kind of a secret at first. Like, they did not reveal that they were revisiting this until you know, the story got there. But yeah, I mean, like, you know, there is a part of me that's kind of just like, oh gosh, do we need to do this again? But then, like, I'm very quick to throw that out and just be like, okay, they're telling this story whether I want them to or not. So let's look for for it to reach that potential, you know?
Yeah.
And I think this one did.
As a reader, we only have one way to show people that maybe two ways, I guess, that a story shouldn't be told. One is don't buy it, or give it a bad review. That's the only thing, right? Yeah. Like, the true power comes in editorial choosing to push the story forward or not. But unless you're an editor, then hey, we're along for the ride. It's already been created. What can you do? Maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but
I think that's exactly it. I mean, that's a better. I think that's a shorter way of saying what I said, a more efficient way of saying what I said.
Batman Superman World's Finest. I would have picked this one as my pick of the week, but now I can't, and that's okay. No, for the sake of the show, I'm gonna pick another one because there's a lot to pick from. Drew, do you have one, or do you need?
Yeah, it's Superman and Batman World's Fine. I'm just kidding, it's not. No, my pick was almost. I'm gonna tell you what it almost was, which is kind of surprising for me. Like, if we talked a bunch, me. My pick was almost Ultimate Spider-Man.
Okay.
But then I read The Six Fingers.
Okay. It was that good?
The Six Fingers. Okay. Do you know anything about this book at all?
No.
Okay. I think even if I didn't think The Six Fingers was as good as I wanted it to be, which it is, what it's doing, I think, is very exciting.
Okay.
So by that, let me explain what that is. The Six Fingers is a parallel story to another book that Image is publishing called The One Hand. The One Hand #1 already came out. It's written by Ram V. And The One Hand is about it takes place in like a Blade Runner style, like neo-noir city. And it's about this detective who is just about to retire, and then he gets that one case that keeps him from doing it.
Yeah.
And it's about a serial killer who he has put away twice already. So like, he put him away one time, and then somebody else started committing those same murders, and maybe he got the wrong guy, so he found that person and put them away, and now there's another person doing very specific crimes in the same way. So he's just like, I may have been wrong 2 times in a row. I got to find this person.
Yeah.
And the way that he knows that it's the same person is because of a bloody handprint that he's found at the scene of the crime with 6 fingers on it. The Six Fingers is written by Dan Waters, and it's the serial killer.
Okay.
So they have these 2 stories working in tandem with each other, being published in their own series, but you're getting like both sides of the story.
Yeah.
It's really cool. They both have like their own identity, but they're interconnected, and I absolutely love it.
Okay.
Very intriguing.
It's awesome. It's like, it reminds me a lot of the concept of it. Did either of you ever read Gotham Central?
Yeah.
Yes.
So like, Gotham Central was co-written by Greg Rucka and Ed Brubaker.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that they did it is that they weren't each like, they kind of plotted it together, I'm sure, but they weren't each writing, like, they took turns based on which shift it was.
I didn't catch that.
One of them wrote the GCPD day shift, and one of them wrote the night shift. I don't know who did what, but that was the way they structured it. And so this is kind of like that, except it's, the killer and the guy trying to find him. So
okay, yeah.
I'm sure that there's going to be more mystery to it than just, this is the killer, this is the guy trying to find him, because it just feels like it's being set up to kind of to throw off the audience. But as of right now, we have 1 issue of each. We're following this detective, we're following this guy who he's looking for in their own separate series.
It's a very fascinating way to tell a story. I like the dual perspective.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. And the art is killer. Like I'm not trying to make a pun there. The art is by Sumit Kumar.
Hmm.
Colors by Lee Luffridge, who did like Deadly Class. So it's like very very interesting use of color. But
Wow.
yeah, I mean, it's like it's got everything that I want in a book. It's a really interesting mystery. It's got that kind of like noir feel to it. The art is very like, even when it's just people talking, like the art really pops. I'm a sucker for like really good uses of color. The the futuristic setting is cool. The characters are interesting. I mean, it's just it's fantastic.
I have to check that out.
Yeah, they're the I hate to call it a gimmick, but it's the narrative device that they're
I
using.
mean, it is a gimmick.
You know, but I mean, it's not like a cash grab gimmick, I guess, in the sense, right? Like it's not. Uh, it's interesting. It's only a matter of time till a movie does this, or does maybe even does this story or uses the device.
I tell you what, they announced it's not a crime story, but they announced movies that are doing this week.
What?
Sam Mendes.
Oh, I was about to bring up the Beatles movies.
The Beatles.
Yeah, Sam Mendes is
I was about to bring that up in my
interconnected Beatles movies.
It's so like
the Beatles verse.
Yeah.
Like they're the Avengers. Like it's like they each get their but they're not solo necessarily. It's just
he did say that they were going to like you would
origin stories, right?
He did say that there were going to be moments that you would see from different perspectives in the different, like the similar moments happening in from different perspectives in the different movies, which is a cool idea.
I'm not interested, but also I'm not going to miss out.
I am incredibly interested because I love the Beatles and I really like Sam Mendes a lot.
The Beatles are cool. I just don't know whether I want to watch 4 movies about the Beatles, but now I can't. I can't not watch it. That's the problem.
I trust Sam Mendes. Like Sam Mendes has yet to miss for me. So I feel like based on the faith of that, I feel like I have to see this.
Do you know how bad it makes me feel to know that like American Beauty is one of my favorite movies of all time? Like, given what that movie's about.
Sam Mendes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
I actually rewatched that like last month, and that was the first time that I rewatched it since I was like 10 or so. I watched a lot of things when I was young. The writing, the cinematography, it's a perfect movie.
And then of course, you have like the weird dark shadow hanging over it of like Kevin Spacey being attracted to an underage person in the movie.
So I've seen Skyfall, I've seen Spectre, I've seen I never saw Road to Perdition, but I read the comic. And then he did 1917.
1917, yeah.
I haven't seen all the things that he's done.
But everything that you have seen from him, you're like, oh wow, that's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, Spectre wasn't that good, but it's. I don't think it's.
Honestly, Spectre is one of the only movies I've ever fallen asleep in the theater during.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's the only Daniel Craig Bond movie I've ever seen. Anyway, Six Fingers. It's really good.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna throw things for a loop here. Mostly because
World's Finest.
Because World's Finest got taken. And it's not to say that isn't my number one pick. Let's just say that is my number one pick for the sake of this episode. My number one pick is not a DC comic or a Marvel comic this week. I think I had a lot of joy reading The Holy Roller 4. And it's been ramping up because it started off good, but like I think my enjoyment of it has been ramping up with each subsequent issue, and it did something in this issue that made me feel sad, which also it spotlights the writer and the artist with this, right?
Writers.
It
has 3 writers.
Andy Samberg, Rick Remender, and Joe Troman.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And
Joe Troman, the guitarist of Fall Out Boy. That's the weirdest part about it.
See,
so this is a triumvirate comic book.
Pretty much, yeah.
I don't know
Cool.
how I don't know how the 3 of them are writing it, but
it's gotta be like 2 of them kind of spitting ideas, because it does feel like a Rick Remender book. He's even like doing the letters column in the back, so like it's got to be a lot of him.
Yeah. You read,
but I mean,
one?
like the character, I did, yeah.
Yeah.
The character is definitely Andy Samberg.
Well,
like,
especially in this issue, it makes him.
Yeah, he looks more like Andy Samberg in this issue than he has in any of the other ones.
Yeah, like back when Brian Hitch did the Ultimates and he made everybody look like a celebrity. like Thor looked like Brad Pitt, and this is before like the MCU, you know. So like Brian Hitch in his own mind was casting the Avengers through his own art in the Ultimates, and that's where we got Samuel L. Jackson, Nick Fury, because before then, Ultimate Nick Fury looked different in Ultimate X-Men when he was first introduced in Ultimate X-Men. I'm gonna say issue number 7, because it's the first issue of the second story arc. I think it was issue 7. The point being is, this book, the story being a man, a man comes back to town, realizes town has been taken over by neo-Nazis, white supremacists, white nationalists, as they call themselves in this book, you know, but there are, I believe there are swastikas and things involved, but, point being,
I don't think that they're using actual swastikas, but it's definitely like something. It's like there's like an armband that's like a stand-in for a swastika.
Okay, yeah, I see the cover here. Yeah. But it's comedic at the same time.
It's
because it's showing how dumb they are.
I think in the first time we did this, and like the first time I talked about Holy Roller on
and that convinced me to read it, by the way. So
I think that like I described it, and I was just like, midway through the book, I was kind of midway through the first issue, I was just like, okay, like this is cool, but it's not connecting with me, until something in it made me realize, oh, this is the same tone as Hot Rod.
Yeah.
And then from there it worked.
So I don't agree that it's the same tone as Hot Rod, because I would say that this book has the comedy through the characters as opposed to like a parody sort of situation.
I get what you mean.
Like the eccentricities of the characters are comedic as opposed to like something.
It's not like, what I mean by that is not like, it's not melodramatic.
Yeah.
Like it's very like the tone of Andy Samberg, like the character in this book, to me, it sounds like his character from like Hot Rod or even like Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
Like when he talks, not just because that's his voice, but just because like the inflection, the kind of like quicker talking that he does in that to sell the jokes, you know, like that's what I'm getting from it.
Yeah. The part in this book that made me sad, because it also made me sad in a previous issue, and I don't know why I'm feeling sad, because the guy deserved it, but like, so the guy who runs the town, his son just does whatever he wants, and so he essentially comes over to kill the main character, but he gets his brain bashed in by a bowling ball. Was it a bowling ball at that point? And he is left severely disabled. And all he can say is pudding. And so he's in, like in the previous issue, he's in the hospital. His dad, who is a horrible person, comes in to hear what his son has to say. Like, who did this to you? And he's like, pudding. And like, okay, like that was bad enough. But then we get to this issue where like they're having like a white nationalist party, like a dinner party in this rich guy's mansion, and like the character says pudding, and like the dad like stuffs cake in his face. He takes the son out, and he throws him into the mud, and the son is crying. It's a lot. Why? Because I mean, the guy's a horrible person. Like, why should I feel bad for this character who also is just ink and text, right? Like,
I think that the book is kind of like, I mean, from what I got from that panel, and I went back and looked at it just now to kind of confirm that, is that I think that like the main character, the Andy Samberg character, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. Like I think that he even is kind of like feeling it when he witnesses that this happen.
Yeah. Because he's standing on the rooftop.
He's getting kicked out of his family, and I mean, I guess that needs to happen to show that, there's kind of like the latent message there that like white supremacists will turn on their own as soon as they feel you're unneeded.
Yeah. Or a bad image.
Yeah. Yeah. Which is, I mean, that's probably true.
Yeah. It's just a sad scene. And again, why should I care? But also, it's just sad. Yeah. But in a good way. Like they make it work in this book. So, good on them.
I mean, there was the risk, just because of the subject matter and also because of like the less serious tone, there was the risk of just making them like cartoony villains. Yeah. And in some cases, I mean, they kind of are.
Yeah.
But I think that this is adding a little bit of extra dimension to this one particular character, which I mean, regardless of subject matter, I do think that just makes for a more interesting story.
Yeah. Good on you, Drew, for pointing me to this book.
So that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
That's all I need from Comic Talk. Just tell me what else to read.
That's why Andy Samberg pays me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brooklyn Nine-Nine streaming on Peacock, I think. I don't know. Paramount? I don't know what it's on.
Hulu for I believe.
I don't know. It was a Fox show and then it wasn't. I don't remember.
I think it's on Hulu.
Okay.
Let's talk about the books that we overlapped on, and then we can talk about the books that we didn't overlap on. Superman 11. Did we all read Superman 11?
Yep. I did.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I liked this one a lot. But like, did you guys?
I enjoyed it. I don't think that I liked it as much as the previous one, because I really enjoyed that Marilyn Moonlight story.
That's right.
This one was good. I do feel like a lot of things like happened with Dr. Farm, and the action was really exciting. It was a very like fast-paced book, which I think was really good. Like I feel like last week was a bit kind of on the more docile side, but this one definitely had like an electric energy to it. So definitely wasn't bad at all. I think it was a really strong entry. Wasn't my favorite necessarily, but I did like it.
I like the different kryptonite claws that Dr. Farm has.
Mm-hmm.
Also, is Dr. Farm supposed to look like Rocky Horror? What's the Frankenfurter? Dr. Frankenfurter. Dr. Farm looks like Dr. Frankenfurter, and Dr. Farm's brother looks like Immortan Joe or whatever his name is. From Mad Max. From Mad Max Fury Road. And I'm like,
I never noticed before, but I think you're right.
Is that on purpose? Like, what's the link there?
It's a commentary.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I also don't know what that one guy's powers are. What's his powers? Not Dr. Farm, but the other guy.
He can fly. He's super strong. He has heat vision. Really, he's immune to most things except kryptonite.
No, not that guy.
Mhm.
The other guy, the Immortan Joe or whatever looking guy. Not Superman. Yeah, what's Superman's whole deal anyway? You know? But anyway, do you guys like the reintroduction of Lena Luthor?
I
I
do.
I didn't know it was a reintroduction. This is I mean, she's a character. She's a character that I'm just not familiar with. So for me, this is the first time.
Yeah, I know more about Lena from like the Supergirl TV series. I don't know too much about her comic book canon history, but I am fascinated with like DC families, even if it relates to villains. And I'm just curious about how this dynamic works, like with her grandmother Letitia, who's like Lex Luthor's mother, and like she seems like kind of conniving and, as you would assume, a Luthor to be. So I really want to see how that dynamic works because I'm still kind of getting introduced to these characters.
Yeah. I mean, different adaptations will do it different ways. And obviously, through the multiple reboots of DC, it is surprising when people from a pre reboot are reintroduced because then you're like, oh, I remember them. I didn't remember.
Mhm.
I didn't realize they still existed. So Lena Luthor was, and the only reason I know this is I had the Superman encyclopedia as a kid. So I have, and I still do. I have the Superman encyclopedia, Spider-Man, X-Men, Batman, Justice League, and I think that was it. Anyway, the point being is they were like DK encyclopedias. In it was, because I got it in like 2001. In it was, there was like a Y2K storyline where Brainiac was coming in to like take over, and like Lex essentially like sacrificed Lena to Brainiac. So that's why she has the Brainiac symbol on their head. And like, I forget what happens. I just remember reading the encyclopedia entry. And so,
Okay.
that a lot of my knowledge from before I actually started reading comics is from those encyclopedias. Like from all those storylines that like I didn't grow up reading. I just read the encyclopedias for it. By the way, those are great gifts to get to kids if you don't know specifically what they like in comics. So I got my cousin the new DC encyclopedia, which is like a thick book. I got that to him for his birthday. And so I've yet to touch base with him and see like, I want to see who he's interested in, so then I can get him comics on that.
Yeah. Those are very useful.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I liked this issue. I don't know if there's anything more to say. Superman gets red kryptonited. You know, it's kind of cool.
I thought that was I thought that was a cool moment. Specifically, the Lex being like, "You don't want Superman to be angry."
Yeah, it's like Superman's not just angry at me.
But you got to think about what you're doing here.
Yeah, you think you can manipulate an
And like
angry Superman?
that's something.
What were you saying?
And that's actually something that I feel like doesn't get addressed often, but I really like when it's done right. And I kind of actually go back to Justice League Unlimited because I feel like Superman at that point, he kind of like reached his like tipping point when it comes to like Lex Luthor specifically. I just remember that one episode where like Lex built this whole like town and Superman is like very paranoid about it. He doesn't trust him. He's just like his number one hater. He's just like he's up to something. I know it. And I really enjoy like when Superman like unleashes, not in like a, injustice way, but like in a no, I know that this person is wrong and I am right. I've been through this 8 billion times, so I'm going to act. And so even though that's not what this was specifically because it was like red kryptonite induced, but it still had that flavor of just like Superman unleashing.
Yeah. Yeah. I also like the fact that he didn't kill anyone. You know, we didn't have to take back something. You know, these issues. I feel like this current run of Superman isn't about angst. Like Superman isn't angsty, so don't write him angsty. So don't have him kill someone and then regret it, or like I don't know. Maybe we've seen that story too much, but like we don't need Superman of all characters to be angsty. You know.
Agreed.
That's Superman. Wonder Woman #6. Also, yeah, this was just a big DC week. Wonder Woman #6 came out. Did we all read that one?
I did.
Yes, I did.
Are we all fans of this current run?
You know,
I'm interested. It piques my interest. I'm very fascinated by it more so. Daniel Sampier's art, it blows my mind. Like I know this is random, and even in this last issue, like Diana's casual wear in her like sneakers and her jacket. I know this is random to talk about, but I'm also like a fashion guy. I just love that because it just grounded her in such a seemingly subtle way, but it like that made her feel human. Ironically, she's a demigoddess, but just like even that small thing and how like relaxed that vibe was when she was talking to Steve Trevor. Like there's something about like bringing superhumans into like this down to earth, like people that you could like walk up and talk to, that I enjoy just as much as I enjoy when they're out in space fighting aliens. But I just really wanted to give a shout out to the art because it is one of the most beautiful looking books on the stands right now.
Yeah, I agree. I'm with you in exactly that moment, what you were saying. I found myself like really paying attention to the details of just what she was wearing in that scene, down to like the cuffs in her jeans. I mean, I think they're supposed to be jeans. They're like kind of a brighter, almost like khaki denim. But yeah, I mean, like her jeans are cuffed right above like the where her shoe is. The art felt so lifelike in that moment. Like it looked like a real, it looked like a real person.
Yeah. I mean, the art's beautiful.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, you gotta with Wonder Woman. It kind of sucks to say that like everything that like Superman is supposed to be is also attributed to Wonder Woman, except she also just has to be the most beautiful person. And like, you know, that's just the way like her comics are. She's the best at everything. We don't necessarily need Superman to look glorious every single step. But like Wonder Woman always does. And like it's such an unattainable like standard, but like I love Wonder Woman.
One of my favorite things about reading this run so far has been kind of like revitalizing an interest in her.
Yeah.
I really liked pretty much since there was Rebirth, and then after a while they started putting another banner at the top.
Infinite Frontier.
Yes, that was it. Yeah.
Infinite Frontier to me is really when DC finally got back to like.
I think. I
agree.
I agree with you. But I think that Wonder Woman's Infinite Frontier run up until now was also really strong.
Yeah.
You know, like the whole Norse mythology section, you know, like that was a really cool idea. Which was who was writing that? It was like Michael Conrad and
Becky
Cloonan, yeah. Working together to write that, and it was really cool. But something about this new run is just like re-energizing my interest in Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Well, also it gets to nothing invigorates a comic book like a amazing artist drawing long forgotten villains.
Yeah. I mean, we
see with Batman all the time, right? Like a really good artist will like randomly bring in like Calendar Man or Kite Man. Let's just say Kite Man. His whole like his whole shit popped off.
Interestingly enough, same writer. It's Tom King.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right here. Another thing that I was thinking as I was reading this book is just like, I know who some of these villains are, but there are some in here. Who was the one? I mean, like,
by the way, the whole sneak attack aspect of this was so cool.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Giganta especially. Like that felt so cinematic to me.
Yeah.
Or like hands coming out of the ground.
The who is it? What's her name? The Silver
Silver Swan.
Silver
Silver
Swan.
Swan.
That's a character I didn't know at all. But I thought what the structure of this run so far has been doing really cool stuff with like showing parallels between like parallel timelines, you know, like Diana as a kid or Trinity as a kid, or like Diana meeting with Wonder Girl and, you know, like her, you know, and then like showing those three things kind of near each other, or even down to this issue where she's being approached by Grail.
Yeah.
And it's like a similar pose. They're like similar but opposite. Like their hair is flowing in the same way. They're exactly the same, like spacing on the panels, you know, like I'm such a sucker for it. And that's one of the reasons why I like Tom King so much, is that just, you know, people don't, the biggest criticisms that people give of Tom King is that his dialogue is weird and his stories take too long to get started. I love the slow burns because I don't think he's wasting that page time. I think that he's doing interesting stuff with it. It's just not always like, it's not always action. It's not always, you know, it's like character stuff and really interesting comic craft stuff. Not comic craft, the lettering, but comic, the craft of making comics.
Yeah.
I'm such a, like, that's why I like him so much.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I'm so jazzed on this Wonder Woman run, is because it, you know, he's really turning up the Tom King-isms without making Wonder Woman like depressed.
Yeah. Oh, Ethan, were you gonna say something before we move on?
Oh no.
Okay.
Nope. I'm good.
Again, big week for DC. Nightwing 111.
This is a good issue.
Yeah, that was good. I enjoy it whenever there's parallels, and like with Dick Grayson and, you know, Haley Circus and kind of his origin with that, but how that kind of also like mirrors Bruce Wayne's as well, and just kind of like this repeating symmetrical kind of like orphan story, and how they both like approach it, and how I just enjoy like thoughtful reactions to Bruce Wayne in terms of just like him understanding that like Nightwing should be the one to speak with the boy because Batman was like, the kid was afraid of him. So it's like him having that like forethought. Like I just enjoyed when like Batman is taken more seriously, because he's been written before as kind of just like very like narrow-sighted, like this is the way it has to be, very hard, which is fun too. I'm not gonna lie, it causes lots of like drama, but also at this point I feel like he has the Bat family, and so he knows how to react to different kinds of people. So I just enjoy like revisiting the past in creative ways.
That since you mentioned like the, you know, the parallels and the symmetry of it, that one page where it just says like, you know, it shows the different times, you know, it's like Bruce as a kid, Alfred, like Bruce as a kid when his parents are shot, Alfred looking on, then Dick as a kid when his parents are killed, and Bruce looking on. And in every single one of those panels, the only caption just says "there's a child." I thought that was really effective.
Yeah.
And then, you know,
same. I love that stuff. And like I have to give credit to the economy of words, because I just feel like Tom Taylor is able to say so much with so little. And that's what really impresses me with this specific book. I feel like this might be my favorite issue of Nightwing in a while.
This is definitely
just because of how, just because it was so impactful. It did the thing that I enjoy so much, which is like looking into the past, but how it like affects the future. And as you mentioned, kind of that like reflection between all these different orphans who share that similar bond. It's a tragic one, but it's also just very effective.
Yeah.
Something that I wanted to point out before we move on to another one, just for the sake of time, we're gonna like really speed things up. But I like the idea that like Bruce Wayne, you're not the only orphan in Gotham. Like you're not. There's a lot of orphans in Gotham, and it's because Gotham is so bad, right? Like there are a lot of orphans. A kid who doesn't die loses their family. Like if you know, if you're not dead, your family's dead, right? And like the Batman, and I've seen the Batman twice, and I saw many new things the second time around. Like the Riddler and Bruce Wayne are both orphans, but they grew up. One had privilege and one didn't, and that was the difference. And that was also that's also, and I love pointing this out. Bruce Wayne, Batman, would not have been able to solve the final mystery, the final piece of the puzzle, because he didn't know what a carpet tool was. He didn't know because he grew up in privilege. So any amount of trivia that he knows, any amount of knowledge just he didn't grow up like that, like the Riddler did. And like Officer Martinez did, who told him what the tool was. Like Officer Martinez was the final piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And so I love that in the Batman. Anyway, that's just a side thing. Daredevil number 6.
I didn't read it.
Yes. So this one I did enjoy more than the previous one. I feel like that's like a common theme. So this was a good week for comics, apparently. Just because this was Doctor Strange's appearance, and he just fit in to this story a bit better than She-Hulk did in the previous one, because, you know, this is dealing with hell and the 7 sins kind of manifesting. And so this is like Doctor Strange's area. He thrives in this. And so his entry was a little less jarring with the story. And Matt Murdock, like, he's also a priest, and he's dealing with like a lot of like Catholic guilt. And I just really enjoy that dichotomy between his personal life as a priest and like his religious work versus his night job, where he is the Daredevil. It's this like polar opposite, like juxtaposition that just draws me in. And so I feel like this issue did that better than the previous one that I read. And then also he goes into hell, and we actually get answers. Some people said that it was underwhelming because the whole thing is that when he came back from hell, it's like he was chased by demons, and like they didn't know why the 7 sins are like following him. And so apparently when he like returned from hell, they came back with him. So we get answers to Daredevil issue number 6. And yeah, just overall the art, the composition of the art is beautiful, and the characters were very effective. Doctor Strange worked for me. The only kind of negative-ish thing towards the end is because like Wolverine pops up and it just kind of feels like a superhero of the month type of book. And it's like, if you want to do a World's Finest, like I'd be totally like game for that, but I really want to like be in Matt Murdock's world. So that's kind of my only kind of like issue with it. But overall, this was a very good read, and I enjoyed it more than issue 5.
Cool. Issue 5 had She-Hulk. This one has Wolverine right at the end. I want Wolverine's sin not to be anger. Like the sin that takes over him. I would be a little... I feel like it's not going to be anger. I feel like it's going to be something else. They're going to blindside us with a different sin. Well, they've already had sloth. They already had sloth. They already had gluttony. And I forget what the other one was that they had. But they've already had those 3.
I think it was envy.
I don't know.
I don't recall. Might be envy. Okay.
It would be crazy if it was envy. I can imagine a Wolverine taken over by envy for Daredevil, and he keeps stabbing his eyes out.
Oh wow. That's hard.
I mean that's
hardcore.
It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm just saying. I'm throwing out like what something that could happen.
Would his eyes grow back from his regeneration abilities?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like,
okay, well then go for it.
Yeah.
I had to refresh myself on the 7 deadly sins, but it's probably going to be wrath.
That's why I'm saying like that'd be the
I feel like
easy.
it's rap.
That'd be the
I'm like
easy way.
99% sure it's rap.
Well,
maybe it's hubris.
They did Gluttony with She-Hulk.
Yeah.
In a non-She-Hulk way, they just kept going out and eating. Like, and that was the issue where the food looked really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would take She-Hulk out on multiple dates. We would eat all over town if I could. Tall women do not scare me. Green women do not scare me.
That's good.
Yeah.
You sound like a perfect match there.
Just like Captain Kirk. Green women do not scare me. Let's move through this real quick. James Bond #2. I read James Bond #1. James Bond #2, just something about the format of it. It couldn't hold my interest.
The only reason why I'm really reading it is because Garth Ennis is writing it, and I wanted to see what he would do with the character. I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
#1 was just so much better than #2. That's all I know. Green Lantern War Journal #6.
Good issue.
Okay. I've fallen off of it and I need to catch back up.
Good issue.
Okay. Batman 144.
I read.
Oh, did you read that one?
Sorry, go. No, I read the first issue of War Journal, and I was surprisingly happy because I'm kind of particular about how Jon Stewart is depicted. So sometimes I don't always go for it. Yeah. But I was surprised by how much I liked it, so I'm gonna keep on it.
Do you like military Jon Stewart better, or do you like the architect Jon Stewart better? Because now they've merged the two, and like, you know, they're trying to streamline who Jon Stewart is.
Yeah, so I prefer the architect, and I also prefer when his Green Lantern ring creations are more elaborate in that way. Not to say that, like, you know, the military isn't there, but I feel like it's just a very easy, like, go-to. And I just enjoy when, like, his intelligence is put on display. This is also a side note, but UV Lantern, Green Lantern, Jon Stewart needs to come back. He was in the Justice League run with Scott Snyder and Jorge Jimenez, and his suit was dope. The concept was dope. We didn't get enough of it. That's a side tangent. But yes, so I do prefer when Jon Stewart is more of the architect, just because I enjoy how, like, people's, like, work jobs relate to their, like, superhero jobs, and architect is just, to me, just a very fascinating angle to go.
Yeah. Batman 144 is the Joker
year one
part 3.
It's the penultimate issue of the year one thing.
I liked this issue, actually.
It's all right. I mean, this I don't know. I'm interested in it. I love Andrea Sorrentino's art. So I'm always pretty excited about that. The one thing that stood out to me in the flashback section, like the actual year one portion, there's like a dirty cop who brings in some criminals that he's busted with drugs, and then they end up being members of the Red Hood gang.
Yeah.
It's Greg Capullo and Scott Snyder.
Is it?
Yeah. If you look at it, it's
okay. Is he buff? Is Greg Capullo super buff?
Capullo's buff. He's got the sunglasses and the mustache. Snyder's got the eyebrow.
Okay. I don't know whether I know what Scott Snyder looks like, but okay. I like this issue. We're gonna go do 10-second. We got to do 10-second reviews going forward. Ultimate Spider-Man #2. I thought it was cool. The art is amazing. Not much happened.
I really liked it. I don't read a lot of Spider-Man, but I've been drawn to this because it's a new Hickman book that I could jump on really easily, and I've really liked the character work in it.
Yeah, it's really about character. I think this one works well. I thought that Ultimate Black Panther worked well, but I'm afraid for the Ultimates. I don't know whether I want more. I don't need to explore this world. I don't. I like these titles. I just don't know whether this timeline needs exploring. It's not that interesting to me. I like these books, but the world, I don't know. Anyway, John Constantine, Hellblazer, Dead in America #2.
Liked it. It's working in Swamp Thing, which is always exciting for me. I thought I think that this is good. It is it's doing some cool stuff. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Art, really cool art.
Cool.
Story's interesting. John Constantine is a jerk, like as you expect him to be.
Of course.
It's good.
All right. I'm going to get into the last couple books that I read that you guys didn't read. X-Force 49 has created sort of a backdoor beast. Backdoor beast sounds like that's a different thing. That's but
sounds like a Doors song.
Yeah, let's say that. But no, it's essentially a younger backup of Beast's mind put into a new body, and he cries, and it's sad. It's just a simpler, more innocent Beast before he became a weird, like, scientist bad guy. So they've given us an out for this dark Beast. Rise of the Powers of X #2, super cool, great art. This was almost my pick of the week, but I also tend to do X-Men titles as pick of the week, so this one actually pretty cool. Yeah. Guardians of the Galaxy Annual, it ends well. I still don't understand what happened with this whole run. This ends this current run, so like I don't know what they did, but they brought a lot of people back from the dead. Like, it was just like they weren't dead to begin with, and so okay, I don't understand how. I don't understand. Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. Okay. Gorilla Grodd telepathically makes Supergirl punch King Kong in the face. There's some cool moments. I can't complain, but I'm also like, I'm not recommending this to anyone just yet. We'll see how it works. Cobra Commander 2 was from Image Comics. Better than Cobra Commander issue 1. I didn't like issue 1. Issue 2 was more of a down-to-earth sort of story, and it introduced some new villains that I thought were like kind of cool, like hick killers that are also like, I don't know, pretty good at what they do. Spider-Boy #4. This one was actually also good too. I like the Spider-Boy title, and not everybody agrees with me, but I like this character. He is sad though, and I want him to find his mom. That's just kind of. And then Edge of Spider-Verse #1, another Edge of Spider-Verse. There's so many Edge of Spider-Verses, and like this one, it's fine. It's just a Peter Parker that went into the Weapon X program. That's it. Like, okay. Yeah. And then Predator Last Hunt #1. It was whatever. I don't know what to say about Predator Last Hunt. If you like it, you like it. You don't. I forgot to mention that I did read Titans #8, and I did like this issue of Titans. I'm always gonna like Titans, and the public is afraid of Beast Boy, and because of the events of Beast World, and the public is also unsure about the Titans, and I like that. That's interesting. We'll see where it goes from there. That's pretty much it. Was that everything that everybody read?
Yep.
That was it.
All right. I'm glad that we got through it all. Before we get going, I want to thank you both so much for being here, taking time out of your day to be here on this show. Before we get going, though, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug? Drew, I'll let you go first.
I got, let's see. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all same name, Drew Deficit. Throw that X in the middle. In terms of what I got coming up, we are about to hit the 1-year anniversary of the release of Justice League Cosmic Chaos, which is the video game that I wrote. I'm thinking about doing some kind of like play along writers' commentaries of it. I did that when it came out, and I kind of only did one. I kind of want to do some more. Other than that, I am working on a super secret writing project that I'm very excited about.
Nice.
That I can't tell you about, unfortunately, but it makes me very happy, and I'm excited to be able to tell people about it.
Awesome. Can't wait to hear more about it. So thank you. Ethan, where can we find you? What do you got coming up? Anything you want to plug?
Yep. So I am on TikTok, Twitter, Insta. Find your boy at Virgo Blade. Nothing going on that I can really talk about right now. It's still in very like early stages, but when I can tell you, I shall.
Awesome. Me personally, things that are coming up for me, you can find me at This Is Dimithri if you want to find me on my personal stuff. I'm going to Emerald City Comic Con next week. Then I got some work stuff, but that's beside the point. WonderCon in Anaheim is the end of March, and the end of April is Chicago C2E2. I'm going to be at all of those. And I'm going to be on a game show April 23rd, Person, Place, or Thing on Fox. You got to check your local listings to figure out what time that show comes on. Most of the time it's the afternoon block, but if it's not an afternoon block, it's like a 1 a.m. show. Most of the time it's an afternoon game show block on Fox. Like over here, we get it at 2 p.m. So April 23rd, check me out on Person, Place, or Thing. It's a fun show, you know. You'll see me on there. Other than that, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for coming on the show. Thank you everybody out there for watching. Modern Merlin, who used to be that one wizard kid, it's the same person. Thank you for being out there on our Twitch chat. If you're watching us live, you're watching us on twitch.tv/The Keeg Show or youtube.com/The Keeg Show, or you're listening to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. We're on all of those. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok, our two biggest social media platforms, at The Keeg Show. We're also on Facebook, also on Twitter, also on Threads, at The Keeg Show/The Keeg Show. We're also on our website at thekeegshow.com. So, you know, check that out if you want to see some articles that we've been writing. That's pretty much it. This is Comic Talks, that show brought to you by The Keeg, where we go over different comics, all the comics that came out this week. We also got our weekend show, The Keeg Talks. So definitely stay tuned with social media to figure out when the next episode of The Keeg Talks is. And then we also have State of X, which is our monthly mutant catch-up. We're talking about all things X-Men for that month. Once a month. That's pretty much it. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Thank you everybody out there for watching and or listening. Once again, I'm your host, Dimithri, and this has been another episode of Comic Talk for the week of February 22nd, 2024. Take care, everybody. Say bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Peace out.
Bye.